For our next speaker, I would like to invite Whitaker, a lifelong advocate for conservation and a prolific author with a family background in naturalists and writers. As a founder of the Madras Crocodile Bank and the Urla Women's Society, Zai has authored 20 environment-focused children books, including notable titles like Kali and Rat Snake. Her diverse contribution extends to article, film scripts, short stories, and experience in prestigious schools. In her presentation today, she explores the transformative powers of stories, emphasizing the role of reading and writing to connect children with nature. Sharing her personal writing journey, Zai aims to inspire the audience to embrace their innate writer spirit and use it as a rich tool for bringing nature into the classroom. Let us warmly welcome Zai Whitaker on stage.
This to go down? Yeah. Hello, everyone, and I'd like to start by thanking the MIF for having invited me today to speak here. And I'm very honored and actually very happy to be at this gathering. So thank you. All of you, of course, know this quotation well and the two challenges that it encompasses. The one related to nature is at the heart of Madame Montessori's teachings, but there's a challenge here because nature has changed drastically from the time that she wrote this, from the time when she wrote this. And so has our relationship with nature. So her words, the natural world provides endless possibilities for experiential learning, are true indeed, but the natural world is shrinking and warping and morphing, and so are we in many ways, human society. So how best to provide this experience? Now, my talk is going to be a little different from the summary read earlier, which is about using writing to bring nature into the classroom. I'm going to talk more about my journey with nature and my journey in natural history writing, hoping that it will inspire all of you to then inspire the students even more than you are already doing. And I know that a lot is going on in this sphere, in this area. So this is what I will share. But before I come to the point of these two journeys, I will just wander around a bit and then come back to the point, if you don't mind. So this is today's reality of seeking nature and then finding it. We find it, but we also find lots of loud honking jeeps and vans, and getting there is becoming more and more difficult and challenging to take children to these places, these few remaining habitats around our cities. So when she says for human development to occur, this is something that I always had up in my classroom, and I always had to remind myself that she also meant us teachers. And this is something that all earlier speakers have also mentioned, that it's important to dig deeper, to feel more, and to give students more of that emotional sustenance towards nature. So we cannot really give until we first receive. And to receive, we have to make that effort. It's, I think somebody mentioned earlier that it's not just enough to see something, you have to actually take the trouble to experience it. And to take that time to wonder, to ponder, to wander, to look deeper, to reflect deeper, you need that time, just as children needed that time during those two planes to think and to be alone. We as teachers also really need that. And I think school administrators also need to factor that in, that teachers need that time. That time is very precious, very valuable. Balance the doom saying with the woo-woo saying, which is very difficult because everywhere we are being told, and it's true, that the planet is melting, it's burning, it's coming to an end, and it is. When we read the science, it is. But education, like so many things in life, is about balance, and we have to learn to balance these two things. And to focus on the excitement rather than the predicament, which is again very challenging because our children really need to know the science about climate change now. For their own survival, they need to know this. So again, how do we balance that with creating that excitement about nature? It's almost like you're inwardly saying, well, kid, this isn't going to be there when you're 20, but enjoy it now, but you can't say that. So balance is a beautiful word. It's one of my favorite words for many, many areas in life. And look for quirky ways to let nature into our classrooms, into our teaching, into our relationships with children through nature. And one thing that I found very useful is to have a special species about which I educated myself to be able to share that information and that excitement with the children. One of those was scorpions, and you'll be hearing more about scorpions later on in the talk. And of course, creating responses, which as Montessori teachers you do anyway. So now I come to my journey with nature, which started with birds. And in a way, it started even before I was born, because my mother was a naturalist and writer. And during her pregnancy, she was writing a book on birds. So I was listening to all this and probably analyzing it before I appeared. And actually, it was a co-authorship. So she tells me that there were a lot of very loud, vigorous discussions and dialogues and fights about how it should be written. So it started then, and I grew up in a family where, practically everyone, old and not old, were naturalists or interested in natural history. By the time I was 12, my sister and I, who was a year older, we were both helping my father set up WWF India, which he had started in Mumbai, Bombay at that time. So from a very young age, from the age of 7 or 8, we were taught typing and cyclostyling. I don't know if you even know what that is. It's now an archaic thing. I saw a cyclostyling machine on sale at some antique store, and it made me feel so old. But anyway, in those days, there was no Xeroxing or computers. It was cyclostyling. And so by 12, we were typing letters which he had handwritten or dictated. And we wrote a letter to Mrs. Gandhi about Silent Valley, about the need not to have the Heidel project there. And grew up listening all the time to what conservation was at that time, how it was perceived in those days, which was different in many ways to the way we perceive it today. Then, for some inexplicable reason, I got very interested in snakes, in reptiles, and particularly snakes, and this is the man I later married. He started wearing a shirt soon after. And got so interested that I moved to Chennai, and Chennai has been my home since then, since 1974. And I helped Rom. His name is Rom Whitaker. We are now divorced, but we remain good friends and partners in conservation. So I helped him at the Madras Snake Park, and then helped him set up the Madras Crocodile Bank later. And we worked very closely with the Irula Adivasi community, which is a fantastic group of people. It is like a Montessori community that you can't believe, actually. And so people like Nadesan and Anamalai, Chokalingam, these snake hunters, they were hunting snakes for the skins at that time. They became very good friends of ours, friends and mentors. And this was really a life-defining moment for me, I would say, because I learned so much from them, and not just about termites and snakes, but about social life, about psychology, about parenting. It was, I think, a fantastic education for me. And we set up 2 organizations focused on Irula skills and knowledge. The Venom Center and the Women's Society. Basically around building the economic and social empowerment for this community, which still remains one of the poorest communities in our country. So there's much to say about these organizations, but since we are focusing on education, I just want to say that we had students coming to both these organizations regularly as visitors, and it was really sad to see how little they knew about the Irulas, about Adivasis in general, about poverty, about rural communities. So that is, of course, a part of this whole farm community project that a lot of your schools are into. And it's a very important part of the children's education. Talk to a poor person and get some perspective. There were also many other adventures like keeping wild animals at home. We did some very interesting snake surveys, trying to tame a rat snake, and also traveling to very exotic places such as Papua New Guinea. In this particular village, we stayed near this lady who has the Gaura pigeon, and she also has had pigs as pets. And we saw her suckling a newborn piglet. I mean, that's their connection with nature. And this was a common practice in the country at that time anyway. And we also saw probably the largest crocodile skin ever photographed. This was a saltwater crocodile, which was about 21 feet. I was lucky to work with legends like Viji on the left and visit her in her cave where she was doing her famous study of the cane turtle, listening to elephants at night and being very frightened. There was Satish Bhaskar, the sea turtle biologist, and Basu, who studied and conserved the gharial, which is the crocodile with the pot at the end of the snout. All these experiences were incorporated into my teaching, which was basically from 87 to 2013, I think. And especially the lessons from the Irula. I talked constantly about the Irula, took the students to meet them, took some of them up to Kodaikanal to meet my students. And in 2015, I was lucky enough to return to the Crocodile Bank to work there. And as we all know, crocodiles are much easier than humans, so I really enjoyed that. And then I incorporated whatever I'd learned as a teacher